conversion, divergence.
St. Augustine had a lot about perverted love, so that's okay.
Okay, so to me, I'm starting to think that perhaps one of the most significant things Professor Wilson has done with his book is that he pushes for an encounter in this book between religion and the post-structure idea of becoming change, discursive deferral, etc. On one side, We Always Converting this book gives conversion a semiotic and post-structure term. It has converted the idea of conversion with the idea of translation, radically turning the Puritan theological teaching into the fountainhead of an anti-imperial politics. On the other side, Professor Wilson also tries to convert the post-structure, post-modern, post-colonial ways of doing politics by implanting into all this post-playfulness or cynicism the religious passion and missionary commitment, something that I think Professor think that could really make things happen and make changes. So while reading Professor Wilson's book, another book that keeps coming into my mind is Samuel Huntington's Who Are We? The Challenges to America's National Identity, which came out in 2004. If this comparison is too far from, actually Professor Wilson can correct me later. Huntington's book is definitely very, very different from The Always Converting in terms of its scope and agenda. Huntington is a self-designated nationalist, an American patriot. Who Are We marks his efforts to find in Anglo-Saxon Protestantism the essence of the United States as a nation. He traces into the U.S. history what he claims to be the four great awakenings of the U.S. and tries to argue that the U.S. is fundamentally a religious nation. And Anglo-Puritanism, as well as its legacy, must be taken as the core of the U.S. national identification, something that can possibly save the U.S. empire from its present crisis of division, quick Latinization, and even a complete collapse. Also appealing to the American religiosity originating from the Puritan idea of conversion, The Always Converting nonetheless develops a totally different framework and concerns. For one thing, while Huntington tries to find in the U.S. mainstream history a stable religious root, Professor Wilson conceives America as falling into a hybrid and shifting oceanic routes. Moreover, while Huntington tries to find in Anglo-Saxon Protestantism a theology that can help secure the oneness of the U.S. as a nation, Professor Wilson finds in American religiosity a theopoiesis that challenges the boundaries of the U.S. Huntington privileges truth, while Wilson lays emphasis on trope. Huntington correlates religion with nation, yet Wilson links religion to poetry. In a way, I think that The Always Converting could be read in the context of the revival of American religiosity since the late 1990s, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, yet in a very intriguing gesture, the book has converted this religiosity to and through literature. And The Always Converting could also be read as a response to post-deconstructive doubts about anything that is immaterial or transsecular. Instead of completely giving up religion and entering into a nihilistic world of post-politics, post-everything, The Always Converting urges a radicalized faith, a type of religion that energizes connections and transformations through the act of always converting. And for sure, The Always Converting is also written as a response to the religious craze underlying the current militant confrontation between Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, etc. In Professor Wilson's words, conversion by the sword still haunts the conversion by word. It becomes an important issue to escalate the poetic force and creative potential of religion in a world where religions have been so much distorted by the militant national ideologies and political confrontations. And so here from this idea of conversion by word, I'd like to move on to another key idea in the book, which is conversion through the geographical transversal, so that's more related to the idea of Oceania. And in this part, I would like to maybe expand a little bit Professor Wilson's argument by bringing Asian Americans' position in the Oceania transversal across Asia and the Pacific. I'm thinking that if, like Professor Wilson has reiterated in his book, that Oceania is rhetoric, a metaphor and a vision of transnational mobility from below, Then I would like to add that Asian Americans, alongside the Pacific Islanders like Obukia or Ho'ova, Asian Americans actually play very important roles in activating and energizing this metaphor and vision of Oceania. Asian Americans are the key players in and of the Oceania, not simply because they move from Asia across Pacific to turn into Americans, but because they are usually caught in between, physically as well as imaginarily. The fact that many Asian Americans are on the way, seeking dwellings along their Pacific routes, attested to the fact that Asian Americans not only bring Asia into the U.S., but forces into the U.S. the trajectory and visions of the Oceania. In things like Katohata's The Floating World, for example, the post-war Japanese Americans were dispersed from the wartime internment. Many of them turned into migratory workers across Oregon, Wyoming, California, Washington, and Arkansas. Almost always on the road, they disappeared from the official mapping of the United States and turned into specters, becoming part of, I think, what Professor Wilson has mentioned in his book, The Invisible Republic, to haunt the U.S. national geography. And in addition to Katohata's works, Katohata, who's a film director, in her feature length, Picture Bride, tells the story of a Japanese woman's turning into a Hawaiian. And David Mura, in his memoir, Turning Japanese, tells the story of a Japanese American's return to Asia and his attempted conversion to Japanese culture. So significant in this Asian American stories of turning and returning is not how these Asian Americans have achieved stable identity, but how their crisscrossing trajectories open up an outer national space, an Oceania vision for their identity negotiation. And I think I want to end my response with a question, just like he said that we're going to ask questions. Otherwise, we maybe doubted that we are not reading the book closely enough. But my question actually is more related to Taiwan. Because I've been thinking that, I think we all know that due to globalization and the conveniences of international travels, the links between global cities, the so-called outer national lines of flight sometimes actually becomes more accessible, even easier to achieve than what I would like to call the intra-national linkage. I mean, like the linkage between local places within the nation, even is a nation as small as Taiwan. And here I would like to quote from Lin Huaimi, who's one of the leading artists and also the founder of Cloud Gate Dance Theater in Taiwan. Lin has commented recently in one article that things turned out, it becomes easier for Cloud Gate to travel from Taipei to Beijing or to Moscow to give performance than from Taipei to Puli or Pingdong, which are two local places in Taiwan. So my question is, when we talk so much about the outer national poetics, this kind of outer national linkages, is it possible that what are really missing or get neglected in this age of globalization are this kind of intra-national lines of flight? And also, what does it mean when outer national connection, in a way, have gradually replaced the international linkage? I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. So would you like to respond very briefly?
Okay, yeah, well, both of those responses were so wonderfully rich. It would take me a whole week